Water harvesting is the art of collecting water, and it is all about us working onto the soil so much that we put as much water as possible into the soil for us to contribute meaningfully to the water cycle, because the water cycle is what makes life goes on onto the earth. Where there is water, there is life. So for us, water harvesting is that art we put to save that water, that little we receive every season. When you are doing water harvesting, the first important thing is to come up with a land use design, and here we usually call it ecological land design, where you actually will want to design your land into some kind of structures at zero gradient, where you would not need to see water running away, but usually you find there is a little bit of some experiences and expertise that is required for one to come up with zero gradient ecological land use design. And usually you find farmers, because they will be rushing after maybe suffering a heavy soil erosion, then a farmer then just goes and dig anywhere without setting up a clear land use design, and that has contributed to erosion other than controlling erosion, and as a result the farmer loses the patience and let all the soils go. So farmers have actually contributed quite a lot to siltation of major rivers and even dams and streams that were collecting water as a result of poor land use design, which is very, very important. And when we are talking of harvesting water, it is the job of every family in any community to look at it in a very, very closer way. And it is not supposed only to be to start at a much bigger scale, like for example start to talk about constructing very big dams when there is a clear land above within the catchment area of that dam. That dam will simply silt. So water harvesting in this sense should start at household level, and there is this sacredness of water that we would always need to respect, and that love and that relationship that God has created between us and water is vital, that we respect water and give its total value and make sure we create a space where it can be collected and safely stay, and then you can enjoy its functions into your homestead and its functions again in the ecosystem as a very important resource that God has created to help us survive. We have a lot of techniques that we are practicing in the Shasha Agroecology School, and that is also spreading across in the 6 farms that make up the Shasha block of farms. One of those important techniques that we do is to work at micro level, that is at household level, to set up structures that are harvesting, that are collecting every single drop of water that comes onto our piece of land. We have set up what we call dead level contours. The dead level contours are contours that are constructed on that we dig into the soil on zero gradient, so that water doesn't flow, and they help us to enable infiltration of water into the soil. We've also set up what we call earth dams, and earth dams is where excess water that goes into the contour. When heavy rains are received, that water is then collected into the earth dam, and the earth dam then can collect as much as over 200 cubic meters of water, and that water then we can use it for other purposes. So this is one of those techniques that we use, which is downland conservation of water harvesting. Again, within the downland we have micro basins. Micro basins are the holes that you can dig onto a piece of land. It could be 30 centimeter deep holes, and then these holes can help you harvest water. Then we have upland techniques where we need to construct barriers. We can collect as many stones from our arable land to clear land for us to work it easily. Then we set up barriers onto our land, upland, and the barriers then can hold on to water, and they can also reduce runoff and can save our soils from being washed away. Because in an area where we are living, where we receive very little rainfall per annum, at least 400 millimeters when the season is good, and in many seasons it's even less, we need to do a lot of these techniques so that we can harvest as much water as possible. 70% of the Earth's surface is almost like water. But the Earth's surface the land is actually drying. And why the land is drying, it is because much of that water is just going back to the seas and it is not going into the soil. So the work to harvest water is to contribute to the water cycle, so that at least we must have a wet soil. A wet soil will always have life, the microbes into the soil, and the crops that we see and all the living things that we see on the soil, they will need water. So most important, we harvest it for contributing to the water cycles, and at the same time we harvest this water to support our irrigation plots. We have developed quite a lot of projects that we have put following our success on water harvesting. Like, for example, we have orchards here, we have citrus, we have banana, we have pawpaw, we have lots of different other plants that depend on water, and we have also vegetable gardens that we feed to our kitchen, and we also have fish, and that would also need that water. So it is very vital for us to harvest this water, for us to begin to integrate all the different projects that we are working, because it is our oil that makes life going onto this farm. Every season we are receiving is almost like changing as a result of climate, yeah? and yet we continue on to survive. So it is very, very important that we contribute to setting up microclimates within our areas, and one of those techniques that we have to apply is contributing to water harvesting. And in an area that receives less rainfall, like Region 4, we are in Region 4 here, in the Shashe block of farms, where the area is dry and it's not meant for crop production. For one farmer to come in to produce crops in this dry land, you need to do a lot of water harvesting. The only almost like normal to above normal season that we recorded is the 2016-2017 and the 2020 to 2021, where the season would start in November and going as far as March. But usually, sometimes you receive rains very late in December, and maybe end of February there is no more rain, but it could be very heavy in between. And so if you have the water harvesting structures in place, then you are at an advantage, because the 2 weeks of heavy rains that you can have will then sustain your crop, because all the structures will be filled up with soil and with water, and then you are able to sustain your crop. When we talk about harvesting, we are actually talking of diverse, that diversity that we always harvest every season. And one of those that we harvest is water, and the second one is soil. As the rains are received, there's a lot of soil that goes into the contours, and that soil, it will be our topsoil, and that we need to return back to where it was collected by the runoff. So every season, at the end of the season, we go back to the contours to collect back our soil onto the land and to clear enough space for the coming season. And that soil, we find it to be very, very rich silt, especially from the earth dam. For the past season, we collected over 50 scorch carts of silt that was in our contours, and that was in our earth dams, and we used that as manure to feed some of our seed plots within our area. As we were developing our land use design, it took us around 10 years, and it was a job that we were doing as a family, and we were working sometimes with working parties, organizing other neighbors to help us to dig the contours, and also at the same time we were hiring labor to support, especially on the earth dams, because there's quite a lot of work that is required. And so with the period, you would find it was staggered and spread over a period of 10 years, and the costs were subdivided into the phases that we were working on, and approximately you could find that it costed us to over $2,000. By water harvesting and contributing to the water cycle, you would find one of the most important things that you realize is that there is that emergence of plants. Yeah? Some of those species that you could have not seen over maybe for the past 10 years, and because as long as there is not enough moisture, some plants don't just germinate, but seed can survive into the soil. So usually, by increasing water availability, you would find diversity automatically then becomes the norm. You find many different other plants that begin to emerge, and you then create again some kind of a microclimate. You see when we are beginning to get into the rain season, we usually see plants, trees within our block of within the agroecology school beginning to shoot new leaves earlier than the general forest, because there is lots of moisture that has been collected, and then plants are able to respond to the changing season because of the availability of moisture into their soils. And we have seen again increased food diversity. We're beginning to produce different kind of food crops that would utilize that available moisture, and that has contributed to our nutrition, and it has also contributed to our income. We have seen again us developing different kind of projects that we have here. We have orchards that generate income. We have livestock that also generate income and that also feed our kitchen, and we have also improved our structures. Water is a very precious resource that we should nurture for it to nurture our lives. We should always take care of it and conserve as much as possible.